So without further ado, there was when Ruth asked about how many people were here last year, there were obviously a few people from last year who might have seen or remembered the project, and I have had one or two people already asking me today at lunchtime or coffee time about what exactly our project was last year. So for the first half of the talk, if you will, I'll talk about what the project was that won the award last year, and then move on to what it's meant in the last year. This was the project. We made a patient information DVD for patients with colorectal cancer. My specialty is bowel surgery. Almost 90% of the work that I do is colorectal cancer. And the idea was to create an interactive DVD. And that was what the project was. And like all things, we identified the need for this because there is a heck of a lot of information out there in terms of information for patients with bowel cancer, like anything else. And there's all these things, booklets, pictures, information on the internet. Much of the information on the internet is unverified or unreliable. And overall, the whole concept was based on the fact that here you have patients who have had the equivalent of being hit by a truck. They've just been told that they've got a life-threatening illness. They're going to have lots of tests for staging and diagnostic investigations and treatment, and they've been bombarded with information, with pieces of paper or whatever. And you needed to have some kind of mechanism to try and support these patients and their carers through that journey. And that is what the project was about. Now, throughout this presentation now, I'll give you excerpts of the DVD itself with small clips. Obviously, I'm not going to try and play the whole DVD through, but literally snippets of various sections just to give you a flavor of the stuff. This is a colorectal talk. Flavor is very important. So,
Prince Charles Hospital in Merthyr Tydfil, South Wales, is a leading specialist hospital in the area of diagnosis, treatment and follow-up of colorectal disease. Professor Haray and Mr. Masood, together with Mr. Joseph and all their staff, hope that this DVD will provide some answers and reassurance during this difficult time. Prince Charles Hospital in Merthyr Tydfil, South...
Move on. Right. You've been given this DVD by one of the members of staff from the colorectal department because you've either been diagnosed with bowel cancer or are strongly suspected to have bowel cancer. This can be a very difficult time, not just for patients but their families as well. And it's because of that that we have taken the trouble to design this DVD specifically to help you through the process of understanding the various tests and the treatments that you might have to undergo. So the idea was, I had the idea more than 10 years ago, and like all ideas, it took a long time to come to fruition. Very often you get a bright idea and you just can't, you don't have the time or you don't have the energy or you've got other priorities that take, and eventually it was nearly 10 years later that I got the time to put it down, to sit down and start doing a project plan, etc., etc. And got an external educational grant for it because obviously the NHS isn't going to fund anything, don't be silly. So we got educational grant for that and got on with it. And to set up a project advisory group, one of the things that I had to be very careful about was to make sure to try and eliminate any bias that people like me or the specialist nurses or whatever would bring in, because we wanted this to be a patient-centered product for patients, designed by patients or by as close to it as we could get. And that's why we got this group together. And I got the trust chairman, who was at that time, the trust chairman was a gentleman who was a retired senior police officer. I think he was a retired police commissioner or something. And so it had nothing to do with medicine. He chaired the group, and we had representatives from the colorectal and stomach care patient representative groups and various other bodies like the clinical governance people and the surgical directorate management, etc., etc. And rather than doing this video, I still call it a video, rather than doing this DVD with just handheld camcorder with one of us following each other around kind of thing. We decided that the best way to do this, if you wanted to do it well, was to get technical expertise. And the technical expertise came from a company that specializes in doing just medical videography, a company called DigiMed. That's all they do. And this is, they look like a bunch of reprobates, but they are brilliant at what they do. Absolutely brilliant at what they do. This chap here, David Brown, is the guy who owns the company. And this is the rest of the chaps work with him. And incredibly good at what they do. They've probably seen more operations than I have done in my life. Across the range, in the sense they would have seen plastic surgery, pediatric surgery, urology, whatever. They go and film in hospitals. That's what they do. Okay, so this is what we got. We got this company involved right at the outset. And David Brown won't mind me saying this. He himself is an ex-cancer patient, and therefore, because this is a cancer-related project, and because it is being done with educational funding, etc., he gave us a reasonable quotation as well. So the project started, and a lot of background work before the start of the project, and we finished it in 2 or 3 months, and launched it after intense amount of editing. Obviously, we had hundreds of hours of filming that needed to be edited down to make the DVD. The format of the DVD is effectively a virtual journey for the patient. Okay, there's a lot of information, but it's also interactive flowchart, so the patient can choose to see the bits that he wants to, or skip the bits that that are not relevant to him. And when we give him the DVD, there's a flowchart at the front that whoever gives him the DVD, myself or one of the registrars or the specialist nurses or whatever, they just tick the bits that you need them to see. So for example, if they're definitely going to have an MRI scan, but not a CT scan, you would tick the MRI. He's welcome to watch the CT scan bit if he wants to, but make sure you see the MRI because it's relevant to you kind of thing. And it's got contact numbers and stuff. Now, over the next few slides, I'll give you a sample of various things.
Following your referral from your GP, your visit to the Rapid Access Clinic and your clinical assessment, a series of tests will have been decided upon to diagnose your condition. You will then visit either the radiology or endoscopy department, or in some cases both.
I'm Jill, I'm the endoscopy unit manager. This is the department we're coming to for your test.
My name is Anton Joseph, I'm one of the surgeons here. The test I normally do here is called flexible sigmoidoscopy or colonoscopy. It's a test mainly done for problems with the rectum or colon. This is the instrument which we use to examine the colon.
Mr. Joseph has just started, as you can see on the screen. It's a very clear picture can be obtained of the inside of the bowel. All the pink stuff that you see is the lining of the bowel.
Radiology comprises 4 tests,
DVD, okay?
CT, MRI, barium enema and ultrasound.
Medical imaging plays a central role in the diagnosis and treatment of bowel cancer.
Hi Matthew, I'm Richard. I'm going to be carrying out your CT scan this afternoon. What we're going to do is see you've got a needle already in your arm. When you go through the hole, the machine's going to ask you to hold your breath a few times, and as the dye goes around the system, you might get a bit of a warm feeling. Nothing's going to touch you, nothing's going to hurt you, nothing unpleasant about the examination at all, okay? About 20 seconds, the whole exam.